The fluorescent lights of the office building flickered as Rebecca gathered her belongings. It was almost 7 in the evening, and she was the last one left on the reception floor. Again. Her back ached from sitting in the same chair for 9 hours, answering calls and directing visitors with a smile that felt painted on by the end of each day. She grabbed her worn purse and headed toward the elevator, already thinking about the mountain of things waiting for her at home. The baby needed a bath. There were bottles to wash, and somewhere in between all of that, she needed to figure out how she was going to pay for the special formula the doctor had prescribed. The elevator doors closed, and Rebecca leaned against the cold metal wall, closing her eyes for just a moment. 6 months. That's how long it had been since little Lily came into her world and turned everything upside down. Beautiful, precious Lily, who wouldn't stop crying at night and couldn't seem to keep regular formula down. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A reminder. Pediatrician appointment. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning. She'd have to ask her supervisor for time off again. That would make it the 3rd time this month. Rebecca stepped out into the parking garage and walked toward her old sedan. The car had seen better days, but it ran, and that was all that mattered. As she settled into the driver's seat, her phone buzzed again. This time it was her neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who'd been watching Lily. Hey, sweetie, just wanted to let you know the little one's been fussy all evening. Wouldn't take her bottle. I tried everything. Rebecca's heart sank. I'm on my way. Be there in 15 minutes. The drive home felt longer than usual. Every red light seemed to last forever. When she finally pulled up to her apartment building, she practically ran up the stairs to the 2nd floor. Mrs. Patterson opened the door before Rebecca could even knock. The older woman's face showed concern. She's been crying on and off for the past hour. I'm worried about her, dear. Rebecca took Lily from her arms and immediately felt the baby's forehead. Warm but not feverish. Lily's tiny face was red and scrunched up, and she let out another wail that pierced right through Rebecca's heart. Thank you so much for watching her. Mrs. Patterson, I don't know what I'd do without you. It's no trouble at all. You just take care of that baby. And yourself too. You look exhausted. After Mrs. Patterson left, Rebecca tried everything. She changed Lily's diaper, checked her temperature again, tried to feed her the expensive special formula. Nothing worked. The baby just kept crying, her little fists balled up against her chest. By 9 o'clock, Rebecca was close to tears herself. She paced the small living room, bouncing Lily gently and singing every lullaby she could remember. Finally, mercifully, the baby fell asleep in her arms. Rebecca carefully placed Lily in her crib and tiptoed to the kitchen. The canister of special formula sat on the counter, nearly empty. She picked it up and checked the price tag still stuck to the bottom. $48. And this one had lasted barely a week. She pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. The numbers on the screen made her stomach twist. After rent, utilities, and daycare deposits, there was barely enough left to buy groceries, let alone another canister of formula. And the pediatrician wanted to refer them to a specialist, which would mean more appointments, more time off work, probably more expensive tests. Rebecca sank into the worn couch and felt the weight of it all pressing down on her shoulders. She needed help. She needed her mom. Her fingers moved across the phone screen almost automatically, opening her messages and finding the contact labeled Mom. She started typing, not even thinking about how late it was. Mom, I don't know what to do anymore. Lily won't stop crying and nothing helps. The special formula is almost gone and I can't afford another one until next week. The doctor wants her to see a specialist, but I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. My insurance only covers so much. I'm trying so hard, but I feel like I'm failing her. What if something's really wrong and I can't get her the help she needs? I'm scared. She hit send and leaned her head back against the couch, closing her eyes. Just writing it out made her feel slightly better. Her mom would know what to say. She always did. Maybe she could even help out with the formula. Just this once. The phone buzzed almost immediately. That was fast. Her mom must have been up watching her late-night shows. Rebecca opened the message and felt all the blood drain from her face. Is everything all right? How can I help? That wasn't her mom's typing style. Her mom always used full sentences with proper punctuation. And she definitely would have led with "Oh honey" or "Sweetheart." Rebecca looked at the top of the message thread and felt her heart stop completely. The contact name didn't say Mom. It said Mr. Daniels, CEO, No, 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 no. This couldn't be happening. She scrolled up through the conversation history, desperately hoping she was wrong. But there it was. The last message in this thread was from 3 weeks ago, when Mr. Daniels had sent a company-wide text about the office being closed for a holiday. She had texted her boss, the CEO of the entire company. She had just sent her boss a desperate, vulnerable message about her sick baby and her money problems at 9:30 at night. Rebecca's hands started shaking. She was going to lose her job. He was going to think she was unstable or looking for a handout, or completely unprofessional. What kind of employee texts the CEO crying about their personal problems? Another message appeared on the screen. I can see you've read this. Please don't be embarrassed. I think you meant to send this to someone else, but I'm concerned. Is your daughter all right? Rebecca stared at the words. She had to fix this. She had to apologize and make this right somehow. Her fingers fumbled over the keyboard. Mr. Daniels, I am so sorry. That message was meant for my mother. I'm absolutely mortified. Please forgive the inappropriate contact. It won't happen again. She hit send and then immediately typed another message. My daughter is fine. Thank you for your concern. Again, I deeply apologize. Rebecca set the phone down on the coffee table and put her face in her hands. Of all the stupid, careless mistakes, she'd been so tired, so overwhelmed, that she hadn't even checked who she was texting. And now the CEO of Tech Vision Industries knew that his receptionist was broke, stressed, and falling apart. The phone buzzed again. Rebecca almost didn't want to look, but she forced herself to pick it up. There's no need to apologize. These things happen, but I meant what I said. Is your daughter really all right? What symptoms has she been having? Rebecca read the message 3 times. He was still asking about Lily. Why would he care? He probably had 1,000 things to worry about that were more important than one employee's baby problems. She shouldn't respond. She should leave it alone and just hope he forgot about this whole thing by Monday morning. But then Lily let out a small cry from the bedroom, and Rebecca felt that familiar tightness in her chest. The fear that something was truly wrong and she didn't have the resources to fix it. Before she could talk herself out of it, she started typing. Rebecca's fingers hovered over her phone screen. She shouldn't be doing this. She really shouldn't. But something about Mr. Daniels' message felt genuine. He wasn't dismissing her or telling her to handle her personal business on her own time. He was asking about Lily. She took a deep breath and started typing. She's 6 months old and has trouble keeping formula down. She cries a lot, especially at night. The doctor put her on special formula, but it's not helping much. She's not gaining weight like she should. They want to run more tests, but I'm waiting on insurance approval. She sent it before she could chicken out. Then she sat there in the quiet apartment, listening to Lily's soft breathing from the bedroom, wondering what she'd just done. The response came faster than she expected. How long has this been going on? Rebecca bit her lip. Since she was about 2 months old. It's getting worse. What other symptoms? Anything besides feeding issues? She found herself typing out everything. The constant fussiness. The way Lily seemed tired all the time but couldn't sleep for long. The weird smell to her diapers that the pediatrician had noticed. The fact that her little arms and legs seemed weaker than other babies her age. When she finished, she stared at the long message. This was too much. Way too much information to dump on her boss at almost 10 o'clock at night. But she'd already sent it. 3 dots appeared on the screen, indicating Mr. Daniels was typing. They disappeared. Then appeared again. Rebecca's heart pounded. He was probably trying to figure out how to politely tell her this was inappropriate. Finally, his message came through. I'm going to ask you something and I need you to hear me out before you say no. Rebecca's stomach dropped. Here it comes. He was going to fire her, or tell her she needed to take unpaid leave to get her life together. Okay, she typed back. I have a friend who's the head of pediatric medicine at Children's Memorial Hospital. It's one of the best in the country. I'd like to call in a favor and get your daughter an appointment, this week if possible. Rebecca read the message 3 times. Then a 4th time. Children's Memorial Hospital. She'd heard of it. Everyone had. It was where famous people took their kids, where complicated cases got solved. It was also the kind of place that probably cost more than she made in 6 months. Mr. Daniels, I appreciate that more than you know, but I can't afford a place like that. My insurance won't cover it, and I'm barely making ends meet as it is. I'm covering it. All of it, tests, appointments, whatever she needs. Rebecca felt tears spring to her eyes. This couldn't be real. People didn't just do things like this. Especially not CEOs for their receptionists. I can't accept that. It's too much. Yes, you can. And you will. Because your daughter needs help and I'm in a position to provide it. Let me do this. Rebecca's hands were shaking now. She wanted to say yes. God, she wanted to say yes so badly. But accepting this kind of help from her boss felt wrong. What would people think? What would he expect in return? As if reading her mind, another message appeared. I know what you're thinking. This isn't about work. This isn't about anything except a baby who needs medical care. You don't owe me anything. I just want to help. Why? Rebecca typed. Why would you do this for someone you barely know? The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. When his response finally came, it was shorter than the others. Because I know what it's like to watch someone you love suffer and not be able to help them. I have my reasons. Please let me do this. Rebecca wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Every logical part of her brain was screaming at her to decline politely. But the mother in her, the part that would do absolutely anything for Lily, was already typing, yes. Thank you. I don't even know what else to say. Thank you so much. I'll make some calls tomorrow morning. Expect to hear from the hospital by noon. And Rebecca? Seeing her first name on the screen felt strange. At work, he barely spoke to her directly. When he did, it was always formal and brief, yes? Try to get some sleep. Everything is going to be okay. Rebecca set her phone down and sat in the darkness of her living room for a long time. She felt like she was in some kind of strange dream. Things like this didn't happen in real life. Not to people like her. The weekend passed in a blur of anxiety and hope. Rebecca kept expecting Mr. Daniels to text and say there had been a mistake, or that he'd changed his mind. But on Monday morning, while she was getting ready for work, her phone rang from an unknown number. Hello, is this Rebecca Chen? Yes, this is she. This is Patricia calling from Children's Memorial Hospital. We have you down for an appointment with Dr. Catherine Reynolds this Wednesday at 2 p.m. Does that work for you? Rebecca nearly dropped the phone. Yes, that works perfectly. Wonderful. We have all the necessary information and your account has been cleared for any procedures or tests Dr. Reynolds deems necessary. We'll see you Wednesday. After hanging up, Rebecca just stood in her tiny kitchen staring at her phone. It was really happening. Lily was going to see a specialist at one of the best hospitals in the country. That morning at work felt surreal. Rebecca sat at her desk in the lobby, answering phones and greeting visitors like always. But everything felt different. Around 10 o'clock, Mr. Daniels walked through the lobby heading to a meeting. He glanced her way and gave a small nod. Nothing obvious, nothing that would draw attention. Just a simple acknowledgement. Rebecca nodded back, her throat tight with emotion. Wednesday afternoon, she dressed Lily in her nicest onesie and drove to Children's Memorial Hospital. The building was enormous and modern, all glass and clean lines. The lobby had a huge aquarium and comfortable seating areas, nothing like the cramped waiting room at her regular pediatrician's office. A nurse brought them back almost immediately. No waiting for an hour past the appointment time. No crowded room full of coughing kids. They were led to a private examination room that was bigger than Rebecca's bedroom. Dr. Reynolds entered 10 minutes later. She was younger than Rebecca expected, maybe in her early 40s, with kind eyes and an easy smile. You must be Lily, she said, leaning down to look at the baby. And you must be Mom. I'm Dr. Reynolds. I understand we have some concerning symptoms to investigate. For the next hour, Dr. Reynolds asked questions. Detailed questions that no one had asked before. She examined Lily thoroughly, making notes and murmuring to herself. She watched how Lily moved, how she reacted to different stimuli, how she held her bottle. I'm going to be honest with you, Dr. Reynolds finally said. There are several things about Lily's presentation that concern me. The feeding issues combined with the muscle weakness and developmental delays could point to a few different conditions. I want to run a comprehensive metabolic panel, some genetic testing, and a few other specialized tests. Rebecca's heart sank. How much will all that cost? Dr. Reynolds looked at her tablet. According to your file, everything is already covered. You don't need to worry about cost. Let's just focus on figuring out what's going on with this little one. They drew blood. They took urine samples. They did an ultrasound of Lily's abdomen. Through it all, Lily was surprisingly calm, as if she knew these people were trying to help her. When will we know something? Rebecca asked as they were finishing up. I'm putting a rush on everything. You should hear from me within 48 hours. I have your number and I'll call you personally with the results. Rebecca bundled Lily back into her car seat and drove home in a daze. She wanted to feel hopeful, but all she could think about was Dr. Reynolds' concerned expression, the way she'd said several things that worried her. That evening, Rebecca sent a text to Mr. Daniels. We saw Dr. Reynolds today. She's running a lot of tests. She said we'll know something in a couple of days. I don't know how to thank you for this. You've given Lily a chance at real answers. Whatever happens, I'll never forget what you did for us. His response came a few minutes later. I'm glad she's getting the care she needs. Let me know what the tests show. And Rebecca, try not to worry too much. Dr. Reynolds is the best there is. If anyone can figure this out, it's her. Rebecca wanted to believe him. She wanted to feel reassured. But as she lay in bed that night, listening to Lily's labored breathing through the baby monitor, all she could do was pray that the tests would finally give them answers. The next 2 days were the longest of Rebecca's life. She went through the motions at work, answering phones and smiling at visitors, but her mind was somewhere else entirely. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart would jump. But it was always just a spam call or a text from Mrs. Patterson asking about Lily. Thursday evening came and went with no word from Dr. Reynolds. Rebecca tried not to panic. The doctor had said 48 hours. That meant she could call any time Friday. Friday morning, Rebecca was feeding Lily her breakfast when her phone rang. The caller ID showed Children's Memorial Hospital. Her hand started shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. Hello? Rebecca, this is Dr. Reynolds. Do you have a few minutes to talk? Rebecca set down the bottle and moved to the couch, her legs suddenly feeling weak. Yes, I'm here. I got all the test results back. I want you to come in today so we can discuss everything in person. Can you be here by 2 o'clock? Rebecca's chest tightened. Is it bad? Please just tell me if it's bad. There was a pause on the other end. It's serious, but it's also treatable. That's the important part. We caught it, and we can treat it. But I'd really like to go over everything face to face. Can you make it at 2? I'll be there. After hanging up, Rebecca sat frozen on the couch. Serious but treatable. What did that mean? She looked at Lily, who was chewing on her tiny fist and looking up at her with those big, innocent eyes. She called work and told them she had a family emergency. Then she called Mrs. Patterson to see if she could come with her to the hospital. She didn't want to face this alone. By 1:30, they were sitting in the same examination room as before. Mrs. Patterson held Lily while Rebecca twisted her hands in her lap, watching the clock tick slowly toward 2. Dr. Reynolds came in right on time, carrying a thick folder and her tablet. She sat down across from them and gave Rebecca a gentle smile. Thank you for coming in so quickly. I know waiting for results is incredibly stressful. She opened the folder. The tests confirmed what I suspected. Lily has a condition called MSUD, maple syrup urine disease. Rebecca blinked. Maple syrup what? It's a rare genetic metabolic disorder. Basically, Lily's body can't break down certain amino acids properly. They build up in her blood and can cause serious problems if left untreated. That's what's been causing all her symptoms. The feeding issues, the lethargy, the unusual smell, the muscle weakness, all of it. Rebecca felt like she couldn't breathe. Is she going to die? No, Dr. Reynolds said firmly. Not if we treat it properly. And the good news is we caught it early. Some babies with MSUD don't get diagnosed until they have a metabolic crisis, which can cause permanent brain damage. Lily's cognitive development is still on track. We got to her in time. Mrs. Patterson squeezed Rebecca's hand. Rebecca felt tears streaming down her face, but she wasn't even sure if they were tears of relief or fear. What do we do? She managed to ask. Treatment involves a very strict special diet, careful monitoring, and regular blood tests. We'll need to see her frequently at first, probably every week. There's a specialized formula she'll need to be on. It's expensive, but again, I see here that cost isn't an issue for you. Rebecca nodded, thinking of Mr. Daniels. Thank God for Mr. Daniels. The most important thing is preventing metabolic crises. If Lily gets sick, even just a common cold, it can trigger a crisis. She'll need to come to the hospital immediately if she shows any signs of illness. You'll need to learn how to recognize the warning signs. Dr. Reynolds spent the next hour going over everything. She gave Rebecca printed materials, websites to look at. and contact information for a support group for families dealing with MSUD. She wrote prescriptions for the special formula and scheduled follow-up appointments. "I'm not going to lie to you," Dr. Reynolds said as they were wrapping up. "This is going to be challenging. You'll need to be vigilant about her diet for the rest of her life, but people with MSUD can live full normal lives with proper management. She can go to school, play sports, have friends, everything. It just requires careful attention." As Rebecca was packing up Lily's diaper bag, Dr. Reynolds touched her arm. "I want you to know something. If you hadn't brought her in when you did, if we'd waited even another month or two, this could have been a very different conversation. You saved your daughter's life by getting her help." Rebecca broke down then. All the fear and stress and exhaustion of the past 6 months came pouring out. Mrs. Patterson wrapped her arms around her, while Dr. Reynolds handed her tissues. "It's okay," the older woman murmured. "It's going to be okay now. Your baby girl is going to be fine." When Rebecca finally composed herself, she thanked Dr. Reynolds about a dozen times. Then she and Mrs. Patterson walked out to the parking lot, where Rebecca strapped Lily into her car seat and just stood there for a moment, looking at her daughter. "She's going to be okay," she whispered. "You're going to be okay, sweet girl." That evening, after Mrs. Patterson had gone home and Lily was asleep, Rebecca sat down with her phone. She needed to tell Mr. Daniels. He deserved to know that his kindness had literally saved Lily's life. She typed out a message, deleted it, and started over 3 times before finally settling on something that felt right. "Dr. Reynolds called me in today. Lily has something called maple syrup urine disease. It's a genetic metabolic disorder. It's serious, but it's treatable. Dr. Reynolds said if we hadn't caught it when we did, Lily could have had permanent brain damage or worse. Because you made that appointment possible, my daughter is going to be okay. I don't have the words to express what that means to me. You didn't just help us. You saved her life. Thank you doesn't even begin to cover it, but thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you." She hit send and set the phone down. Almost immediately it rang. Not a text. An actual call. The screen showed Mr. Daniels' number. Rebecca's heart jumped. He'd never called her before, ever. "Hello? I just read your message." His voice sounded different than it did at work. Warmer somehow. "Maple syrup urine disease. That's what she has? Yes, it's rare. 1 in about 180,000 babies. But it's manageable if caught early." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Rebecca could hear him breathing. "Mr. Daniels, are you okay? I need to tell you something." His voice sounded strained. "I need to tell you why I helped you. Why I was so insistent about getting Lily to Dr. Reynolds. You don't have to explain anything. You were just being kind. No, it's more than that." Another pause. "I had a sister. Her name was Sophie. She died when she was 2 years old. I was only 4, so I don't remember much about her, but I remember that she was always sick. She couldn't eat properly. She was weak. She cried all the time. My parents took her to doctor after doctor, but no one could figure out what was wrong." Rebecca's breath caught. "Mr. Daniels, when you described Lily's symptoms in your text, something clicked in my mind. It sounded so familiar. I didn't put it together at first, but later that night I called my mother. I asked her about Sophie's symptoms. She told me everything she could remember. The feeding issues, the strange smell, the lethargy, everything. Oh my God. I called Dr. Reynolds before I even set up Lily's appointment. I described Sophie's symptoms to her. She said it sounded like it could have been a metabolic disorder, possibly MSUD. Back in 1995, newborn screening wasn't as comprehensive as it is now. Lots of rare genetic conditions went undiagnosed. Rebecca felt tears rolling down her cheeks again. Your sister had the same thing Lily has. We'll never know for sure, but yes, I think she did. And if she'd been born 30 years later, if she'd had access to doctors like Dr. Reynolds and the kind of testing they can do now, she might have survived. His voice cracked slightly. I couldn't save my sister, but I could help save your daughter. I had to help. Do you understand? Yes, Rebecca whispered. I understand. They stayed on the phone for another 20 minutes. He told her about Sophie, about the memories he had of her, about how her death had shaped his family, about how his parents had never really gotten over losing her. I'm going to call my mother tomorrow, he said finally. I'm going to tell her about Lily, about how she has what Sophie probably had and how she's going to be okay. I think it might give my mom some peace. To know that other babies with this condition can survive now. I'd like to meet your mother someday, Rebecca said. I'd like to thank her too. I think she'd like that very much. After they hung up, Rebecca checked on Lily one more time. Her daughter was sleeping peacefully, her tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. She looked so small, so fragile, but she was going to grow up. She was going to have a life. And it was all because one tired night Rebecca had sent a text to the wrong person. The exactly right wrong person. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of doctor's appointments, blood tests, and learning how to manage Lily's condition. Rebecca became an expert at reading nutrition labels and calculating amino acid levels. She kept a detailed food diary and learned to recognize the subtle signs that might indicate Lily was having problems. The special formula arrived at her apartment in large boxes, all covered by Mr. Daniels' arrangement with the hospital. Each week, Rebecca would look at those boxes and feel a wave of gratitude so strong, it sometimes brought tears to her eyes. At work, things felt different now. Mr. Daniels would stop by the reception desk every few days, always with a casual question about how Lily was doing. At first, other employees noticed and whispered about it. Why was the CEO suddenly so interested in the receptionist's baby? But Rebecca didn't care what they thought. She knew the truth. She knew about Sophie, about the little girl who never got the chance to grow up. And she understood that in some small way, helping Lily was helping Mr. Daniels heal from a loss that had happened 3 decades ago. One Friday afternoon in late autumn, Mr. Daniels stopped by her desk with an unusual request. My mother is in town this weekend, he said quietly. She'd like to meet Lily if you're comfortable with that. Rebecca's heart swelled. I'd love that. I really would. They arranged to meet on Saturday afternoon at a park near Rebecca's apartment. It was one of those perfect fall days with golden leaves scattered across the grass and just enough warmth in the air to be comfortable. Rebecca arrived first, pushing Lily in her stroller. The baby was alert and looking around, so much healthier than she'd been just a few months ago. She'd gained weight. Her color was better. Her eyes were brighter. The treatment was working. Mr. Daniels arrived a few minutes later with an older woman who had the same kind eyes as her son. She walked with a cane, moving slowly but steadily. Mom, this is Rebecca and Lily, Mr. Daniels said softly. His mother's eyes immediately filled with tears. She moved closer to the stroller and looked down at the baby. Lily gazed up at her with curiosity, reaching one tiny hand toward the woman's face. Oh, Mrs. Daniels whispered. Oh, she's beautiful. Would you like to hold her? Rebecca asked. The older woman nodded, unable to speak. They moved to a nearby bench, and Rebecca carefully placed Lily in Mrs. Daniels' arms. The baby settled in comfortably, grabbing onto the woman's finger. She looks so healthy, Mrs. Daniels said, her voice thick with emotion. David told me about her condition, about the treatment she's receiving. She's doing really well, Rebecca said. We have to be careful, but Dr. Reynolds says she's responding beautifully to the diet management. Mrs. Daniels looked up at her son, who was standing nearby with his hands in his pockets watching them. David told me about Sophie, too. About what he thinks she had, Rebecca nodded. I can't imagine how hard that must have been for your family. It was the worst thing that ever happened to us, Mrs. Daniels said simply. You never get over losing a child, never, but you learn to carry it with you. She looked back down at Lily. For 30 years, I've wondered what Sophie would have looked like as she grew up, what kind of person she would have become. And I've carried this guilt, wondering if there was something more we could have done, some doctor we didn't see, some test we didn't ask for. Mom, Mr. Daniels said gently, sitting down beside her. Let me finish, she said. When David called and told me about Lily, about her diagnosis and how she's being treated, something shifted in me. I realized that if Sophie were born today, she could have been saved too. The medicine exists now. The knowledge exists. It wasn't our fault that it didn't exist back then. She looked at Rebecca with tears streaming down her face. Thank you for letting me meet her. Thank you for letting me see that babies with this condition can thrive now. It doesn't bring Sophie back, but it gives me peace. Do you understand? Rebecca was crying too. I understand. And I want you to know that every single day, when I look at my healthy, happy daughter, I think about your son and what he did for us. He saved her life. I'll never be able to repay that. You just did, Mrs. Daniels said softly, by letting me hold her, by letting me see that something good came from all that pain. They spent the next hour in the park, talking and watching Lily play on a blanket on the grass. Mrs. Daniels told stories about Sophie, about the little girl who loved music boxes and had a smile that lit up the whole room. Mr. Daniels shared memories too. Things he'd forgotten he remembered until his mother brought them up. Rebecca listened and learned about the family that had saved her daughter. She understood now that this wasn't just about a boss helping an employee. This was about loss and healing and the strange ways that life sometimes brings people together, exactly when they need each other most. As the afternoon wore on and the temperature started to drop, they prepared to part ways. Mrs. Daniels hugged Rebecca tightly. "You're a good mother," she whispered. "Don't ever doubt that. You fought for your daughter. You got her the help she needed. That's what matters." After they left, Rebecca sat on the bench for a while longer, holding Lily close. She thought about how one exhausted mistake, one text sent to the wrong person, had changed everything. It had saved her daughter's life and helped heal a family's 30-year-old wound. The following Monday at work, Rebecca was surprised to see Mr. Daniels waiting by her desk when she arrived. "Do you have a minute before you start?" he asked. "Of course." He gestured for her to follow him to a small conference room near the lobby. Once inside, he closed the door and pulled out a folder. "I've been thinking a lot since Saturday," he began. "About Lily, about Sophie, about how many other families might be going through what you went through. Struggling to get answers, struggling to afford treatment." Rebecca nodded, not sure where this was going. "I want to start a foundation," he said. "A nonprofit organization dedicated to helping families dealing with rare, pediatric metabolic disorders. Help with diagnosis, treatment costs, connecting families with specialists, funding research. All of it." Rebecca's eyes widened. "That's an amazing idea. I'm going to fund it personally," he continued. "But I need help running it. I need someone who understands what these families are going through. Someone who's lived it." He slid the folder across the table to her. "I'd like to offer you a position as the Family Outreach Coordinator. You'd work directly with families, help them navigate the medical system, connect them with resources. The pay is significantly more than you're making now, and the hours are flexible so you can be there for Lily's appointments." Rebecca opened the folder and saw an offer letter. The salary listed made her gasp. It was nearly double what she currently made. "I don't have any experience in this kind of work," she said. "You have the most important experience. You've lived it. You know what it's like to feel helpless and scared and alone. You know what these families need because you needed it yourself." Rebecca looked at the offer letter again, then at Mr. Daniels. "Can I ask what you're calling the foundation?" He smiled, a real genuine smile that she'd never seen from him before. "Sophie's Hope Foundation, named after my sister, because even though she didn't survive, her memory can give hope to other families." "I accept," Rebecca said without hesitation. "When do I start?" "As soon as you're ready. We'll need to find office space, hire more staff, set up the systems. It's going to be a lot of work. But I think we can really make a difference." Over the next few months, Sophie's Hope Foundation came to life. They rented a small office, hired a medical advisor, and set up a helpline for families seeking guidance. Rebecca threw herself into the work, sharing Lily's story and helping other parents navigate the overwhelming world of rare disease diagnosis and treatment. She met families from all over the country, parents who were just as scared and lost as she'd been, and she was able to tell them, with complete honesty, that there was hope. That treatment existed, that their children could have full, happy lives. Mr. Daniels' mother became involved too, volunteering to answer phones and coordinate support groups. She said it gave her a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. As Rebecca settled into her new role, she often thought about that night when she'd been so exhausted and overwhelmed that she'd texted the wrong person. At the time, it had felt like the worst mistake of her life, but it had turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to her. Sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right number after all. 2 years passed in what felt like the blink of an eye. Lily grew from a sickly infant into a vibrant, energetic toddler who loved to dance to music and giggle at everything. Her blonde curls bounced when she ran, and her laugh could light up an entire room. The only sign of her condition was the careful way Rebecca monitored her meals and the regular trips to see Dr. Reynolds for checkups. Sophie's Hope Foundation had grown beyond anything Rebecca could have imagined. What started as a small operation with just her, Mr. Daniels, and his mother, had expanded into a full staff of 12 people. They'd helped over 300 families get diagnoses and connect with treatment. They'd funded research grants. They'd created educational materials for doctors to help identify rare metabolic disorders earlier. And they'd saved lives. 17 children had been diagnosed through their outreach programs. 17 families who might have lost their babies now had hope. Rebecca stood in the foundation's office on a crisp spring morning, looking at the wall of photos. Every family they'd helped had sent pictures. Smiling children, grateful parents, thank you cards decorated with crayon drawings. In the center of the wall was a photo of Sophie, the little girl who'd started it all. Mrs. Daniels had provided it, a faded picture from 1995 showing a tiny girl with dark hair and her brother's same kind eyes. She would have been 32 this year, a voice said behind her. Rebecca turned to see Mrs. Daniels walking into the office, carrying a box of supplies for their upcoming fundraiser event. I think about that sometimes, the older woman continued, setting down the box. What Sophie would be doing now. Would she be married? Would I have grandchildren? Would she have been a doctor like David wanted to be before he went into business? I think she'd be proud of what you're all doing in her name, Rebecca said. Mrs. Daniels smiled and squeezed her hand. I know she would be. And I think she'd especially love Lily, that little firecracker of yours. As if on cue, the office door burst open and Lily came running in, followed by Mrs. Patterson, who volunteered at the foundation twice a week. Mama, we saw a puppy, Lily announced, throwing her arms around Rebecca's legs. Did you? Was it a nice puppy? Rebecca scooped her daughter up, kissing her forehead. So nice. Can we get a puppy? Maybe when you're older, sweetie. Lily pouted for exactly 3 seconds before spotting Mrs. Daniels. Grandma Helen. She wiggled out of Rebecca's arms and ran to the older woman, who caught her with a delighted laugh. Rebecca's heart warmed at the nickname. Mrs. Daniels had insisted Lily call her that about 6 months ago. I never got to be a grandmother, she'd said. Let me have this. The office phone rang and Rebecca answered it. It was a mother from Ohio, crying as she explained that her 3-month-old son had just been diagnosed with MSUD. She'd found Sophie's Hope Foundation online and didn't know where else to turn. Rebecca spent the next 45 minutes talking her through everything. She shared her own story, explained the treatment process, and connected her with Dr. Reynolds' network of specialists. By the end of the call, the woman was still worried but no longer felt alone. Thank you, the mother whispered. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for being there. After hanging up, Rebecca sat at her desk for a moment. These calls never got easier. Each one took her back to that terrifying time when she didn't know what was wrong with Lily. But each one also reminded her why this work mattered so much. Mr. Daniels arrived at the office around noon, which was unusual. He typically handled the foundation's business side from his company office. But today he had a particular look on his face, excited, nervous. Can I talk to you for a minute? He asked Rebecca. They stepped into the small conference room. Mr. Daniels pulled out his phone and showed her an email. I got this morning from the National Institute of Health. They want to feature Sophie's Hope Foundation in their annual report on rare disease advocacy. They're calling us a model for how private foundations can make a real impact. Rebecca's eyes widened. That's incredible. There's more. They want to invite us to speak at their national conference in Washington next month. They want you to share your story. They think hearing from someone who's lived it will inspire other families and healthcare providers. Me? Speak at a national conference? You're the heart of this foundation, Rebecca. Your story is what connects us to the families we help. People need to hear it. Rebecca felt a flutter of nerves, but also something else. Pride. 2 years ago, she'd been a struggling single mother working a dead-end job, terrified and alone. Now she was being asked to speak at a national conference about the work she'd helped build. I'll do it, she said. For Lily, for Sophie, for all the families still out there who don't know there's help available. The conference was held on a sunny day in June. Rebecca stood backstage at the Washington Convention Center, her hands trembling as she held her notes. Mr. Daniels stood beside her, ready to go on before her to explain the foundation's mission and impact. You're going to be great, he said. Just speak from the heart. That's all you need to do. Lily was in the audience with Mrs. Daniels and Mrs. Patterson, probably coloring or playing with toys to stay entertained. Rebecca had considered leaving her with a sitter, but Mrs. Daniels had insisted she be there. She should see her mother doing something important, the older woman had said. Even if she's too young to understand it now, someday you'll tell her about this. Mr. Daniels went on stage first. Rebecca watched from the wings as he told the audience about his sister, about the little girl who died because the medical knowledge to save her didn't exist yet. His voice cracked when he showed Sophie's picture on the screen behind him. The audience of doctors, researchers, and advocates sat in respectful silence. Then it was Rebecca's turn. She walked onto the stage, her legs shaky, and stood at the podium. She looked out at the hundreds of faces staring back at her. For a moment, her mind went completely blank. Then she saw Lily in the audience sitting on Mrs. Daniels's lap. Her daughter waved at her enthusiastically, and Rebecca felt her nerves settle. She began to speak. She told them about that exhausting night when she'd texted the wrong number. She told them about her fear and helplessness as Lily got sicker, and no one could tell her why. She told them about Dr. Reynolds and the diagnosis that saved her daughter's life. "I was lucky," Rebecca said, her voice carrying through the auditorium. "Lucky that I made a mistake. Lucky that the person on the other end of that text had the resources and the compassion to help. But families shouldn't have to be lucky. They shouldn't have to depend on chance or miracles. Every parent with a sick child deserves access to good care, to specialists who know how to help, to the resources they need to get through the darkest time of their lives." She talked about the families they'd helped through Sophie's Hope Foundation. She shared statistics about early diagnosis and successful treatment outcomes. She explained how proper support systems could mean the difference between life and death for children with rare conditions. "My daughter is healthy today because someone cared enough to help when I needed it most," Rebecca said, her eyes finding Mr. Daniels in the audience. Sophie's Hope Foundation exists to be that help for other families, to be the answer when parents are asking the same desperate questions I was asking 2 years ago. When she finished, the audience erupted in applause. Several people stood. Rebecca saw tears on many faces. As she walked off stage, she was immediately surrounded by people wanting to share their own stories, to thank her, to ask how they could get involved. That evening, back at the hotel, Rebecca sat on the bed while Lily slept beside her. Her phone buzzed with messages from people who'd attended the conference. Doctors wanting to partner with the foundation. Researchers interested in their data. Families reaching out for help. There was also a text from Mr. Daniels. "You were amazing today. Sophie would be proud." "I know I am." Rebecca smiled and typed back, "Thank you for everything. For taking a chance on helping a stranger. For turning pain into purpose. For giving my daughter a future." His response came quickly. "Thank you for letting me be part of her life. And for helping me heal something I didn't even know was still broken." Rebecca set down her phone and looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully beside her. Her daughter's chest rose and fell with steady, healthy breaths. In a few years, Lily would be old enough to understand her own story. She'd learn about the foundation named after a little girl she never met. She'd understand how a simple mistake, a text sent to the wrong number, had saved her life and changed everything. But for now, Rebecca just watched her sleep and felt grateful. Grateful for second chances. Grateful for unexpected kindness. Grateful for the beautiful, complicated way life sometimes works out exactly how it's supposed to. The wrong message had found its way to exactly the right person, and in doing so, it had created something bigger than any of them could have imagined. Not just a foundation, but a legacy. Not just saved lives, but restored hope. Sophie's memory lived on in every child they helped. And Lily would grow up knowing that her life was a gift made possible by loss, love, and the power of human connection. Some mistakes aren't mistakes at all. Sometimes they're just the universe's way of putting the right people in each other's paths exactly when they need each other most.